All right. Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? I'm gonna have to get closer because I don't have a mic. Should have went and got me one the other day. No, I ain't doing no looting. But if you happen to have one and you're willing to let it go for the low, I need a mic. I don't want no looted mics, but I need a mic. But yeah, so I'm getting close because I don't have a mic. So, um, and so hopefully you guys can hear me clearly in there in the chat. If you can hear me, let me know. If you can hear me, let me know. If you can't hear me, let me know. So thank you guys for jumping in here real quick. Just want to address a few things. Y'all saw I want to address yesterday, the march, the Kumbaya exchange, and I want to address Lori Lightfoot. Lori Lightfoot came out and declared that she wants to help black businesses. She wants to rebuild black businesses. And I want to talk about the absurdity in that. Okay? So I'm gonna talk about that. And yesterday, y'all saw the video I did. I was a little pissed off, so I was kind of everywhere. So I'm gonna try to calm down on this one, so I can talk a little more cogently. But yesterday, the Kumbaya exchange, where they drug out the preachers and everybody to march in Bronzeville and to call for peace. I did a video on that. If you didn't see it, go back down on my page. It's on my page from yesterday. And a few of my friends were mad at me for doing it because they were like, why don't you come and join them? And what problems do you have with it? You hadn't even seen what they're gonna say. And as I told my friends, I saw the flyer. Well, first of all, I know the move. I know the move in the black community. When things get hot and when things get heavy, when we get into a place of exchange, you got to understand, politics is all about exchange, leverage and exchange. And whenever we get to that place, they roll out the Negro preachers. And I don't have a problem with preachers, as I said yesterday. In fact, if I'd have stayed on the trajectory I was on maybe a decade or so ago, I might be a preacher. So I don't have a problem with preachers, as long as you're speaking truth to power. But yesterday, that's not what we saw. We saw a bunch of kumbayaing. They had thousands of people out there. No social distancing. That wasn't even on the agenda. Everybody was all up on each other. But what we saw was Judas goading. I talked about this a couple years ago. A Judas goat, if you don't know what a Judas goat is, go to YouTube and Google Judas goat, Judas goat. And a Judas goat is a black goat. And the black goat, all the other goats follow the black goat. And so the black goat, they use the Judas goat to get all the other goats, to lead all the other goats to the slaughter. Okay? And so they get this black goat, and the black goat knows what's about to happen. And so they get the black goat, excuse me, and all the other goats, he rallies up all the other goats, and they start, they follow the goat, follow the Judas goat, follow the black one, and when they get to the slaughterhouse, the Judas goat slide out the way. But he got all these other goats behind him, so it's too many of them turn to make a pivot, so they head straight into the slaughterhouse. And they clean them up. That's what I saw yesterday. That's what I saw. And it's not, I don't know what's wrong. And it's not anything personal against anybody. I don't know their intentions. I'm not gonna even pretend to or act like I know everybody's intentions. I don't. It's just that I've seen this play over and over again. We're at a moment of exchange. Streets on fire. And you call in the fireman to put it out. Now, I'm not saying that they should condone people rioting and all that kind of stuff or looting. But what I am saying is if you're going to talk to the people about peace and you're not trying to get them a peace, you're, as I said yesterday, you're wanting them to suffer in silence. During the march, they didn't say anything that I heard that was related to getting resources for black people. This was the moment. I think it still is. I think we still got a little fire and a little leverage. And I'm doing something to counter that soon. So stay tuned on that, and I'll let you guys know what that is, and y'all can participate. But if you're going to talk to people about peace and you're not trying to get them a peace, again, you wanted them to suffer in silence. And so I didn't hear anything at that march that was that was in any way related to getting resources. They had thousands of people out there. And I heard Reverend Meeks, which is one of the main organizers of the event, I think, and one of the main, big black preachers in Chicago. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, that we got to make sure we keep the narrative right. And the narrative is we want the officers that murdered George Floyd to be prosecuted to the first degree. I do too. But that ain't the goal of this. And this is the problem I had with it from the beginning. That's not listen. If all you want in exchange right now is criminal justice reform, guess what? They're going to give it to you. They're going to get their little magic wand. So you want criminal justice reform? Okay. Voila. Give me my kumbaya wand. You want criminal justice reform? All right. Boom. Got it. You want a consent decree? Give me my kumbaya wand. All right. Consent decree. Okay. Boom. Got it. That's it. All right. You got criminal justice reform. You got your consent decree. Now take your po black ass back to Inglewood and back to Lawndale. And shut up. Don't say nothing else, because this is what you asked for. This criminal justice reform is fine, but that's not what we should be exchanging here. We should be exchanging. Listen, right now, Representative LaShawn Ford. I did a press I recorded a press conference with him a couple days ago at the Avalon Park Church. Pastor Anthony Williams on 8100 Dante. And I'll be back over there soon, probably this Sunday. And he is demanding right now for Governor J.B. Pritzker to release emergency money into the black community right now. Sign an executive order. Nobody at that march said anything about an executive order. Nothing. They kumbaya'd, held hands, Black Lives Mattered, and that was it. And then they went their po ass back home. So that's the problem I had with that march, and that's why I didn't go. And so let me get to Lori Lightfoot. Mayor Lightfoot said, let me pull it up here. Mayor Lightfoot said has made a declaration.
Come out here to hurt y'all. Why they come out?
Where is it at? All right, here it goes. So Mayor Lightfoot says, we must rebuild, reopen, and heal together. The resolve of black business owners and Greater Grand Crossing to get back on track, despite the setbacks, gives me hope that Chicago will come back stronger. Well, which Chicago? And so she says she wants to basically rebuild black business. Well, let me tell you what she needs to rebuild. I'm going to tell you what she needs to rebuild before she rebuilds black business, and how absurd it is if she doesn't rebuild something else first before she seeks to rebuild black business. But let me give you some numbers first. So right now, ADOS people, or Chicago in general, is split up in thirds. You have a third white, third Hispanic, and a third black. And ADOS is the largest ethnic group in the city of Chicago. And so what I mean by ethnic group is, white is a conglomerate of different ethnic groups. You have German, which is 15% of Chicago, the largest white ethnic group. Irish, Italian, Polish, you name it. The different white ethnicities. And German is the largest. Hispanic is a conglomerate of different ethnic groups. Mexican, Puerto Rican, people from Spain, Colombia, Guatemala, South America, etc. Those are different Hispanic ethnic groups. And then black is a conglomerate of ethnic groups as well. You have Nigerian, Ghanaian, Jamaican, Cape Verdean, Haitian, and ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery. And ADOS makes up, I want to say, 90+% of the black group, or the black race in the city of Chicago. And in the city of Chicago. And so we are, as a race, we're on par with everybody else. But as an ethnicity, we outnumber every other ethnic group in this city, and probably the state of Illinois, most likely. And so in that, there are black business in Chicago is 3% of the business community. So ADOS, I don't have any data on, they haven't desegregated ADOS business versus other businesses in Chicago. But if I had to guess, let's just say, 2% as opposed to 3%. Okay, so Lori Lightfoot wants to rebuild the 2% ADOS community that has been harmed in these riots and COVID, etc. And so it doesn't make sense for her to rebuild the black business community if she's not going to rebuild her type of politic. Okay? It doesn't, it's, in other words, it's going to be an exercise in futility to rebuild black businesses if her type of politic isn't rebuilt. And what do I mean by that? Lori Lightfoot, Mayor Lightfoot, and even J.B. Pritzker, they have a politic that perpetuates poverty in the ADOS community. And if you try and rebuild ADOS businesses, black businesses, and you don't deal with what your politic has perpetuated and creates, rebuilding the black businesses won't matter, because those businesses won't have any customers at the end of the day. And what is their politic? Let me tell you something before I tell you that. With the rioting and all the looting that's going on, the rioting is mostly at least on the south sides and the west sides, and I've been out there a few times. Mostly kids, mostly younger people. So I would say 25 and younger. And they are aware of what Lori Lightfoot politics are. And you can say what you want to say about these kids. You can say they need a new value set. I agree. I think everybody needs a better value set. Well, I wouldn't argue with you, but I wouldn't argue with anybody on that. You can say whatever you want. They need to do this, or they need to do that. But one thing you can't say about these kids is that they're dumb. I'm out there with some of these kids, and I'm talking to them, and did a live on 47th Street when they were looting over there. and you could actually hear some of them personally tell their stories right there. But I know some of them personally, and some of them have told me that this is payback. Some of them have even went so far as to say this is my reparations. I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up. So these kids aren't dumb. They hear that Chicago is the world-class city that it is, actually one of the richest cities in the country and probably one of the best cities in the world. I've been everywhere, and this is the best city I've been to. And so they hear everybody saying it's a world-class city, and they see that they live in squalor, many of them, on the south and west sides of Chicago. But we keep hearing it's a world-class city. They see the politic that Mayor Lightfoot has. Mayor Lightfoot, she's a black mayor, ADOS, as far as I understand. And she uses her resource, her bully pulpit, and to bring in, to advocate for things that don't benefit black people. They hear her saying that this is a sanctuary city. These kids aren't dumb. She talks about this as a sanctuary city, a sanctuary for people who are here illegally. They shouldn't be here. I mean, an undocumented immigrant is somebody that's here illegally, right? They hear her signaling for people that aren't supposed to be here because they aren't legally, they aren't citizens. They hear her signaling for them to come, which that policy in and of itself is going to drown those people. So she's signaling and she's advocating for a sanctuary city. But she hasn't said a word about reparations for those people. They hear that. They hear J.B. Pritzker saying, Governor Pritzker, that Illinois is Latinx, and it is. A lot of Latino people here. But they hear him saying this is a sanctuary state. But he hadn't said a word about reparations. So if it can be a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state, why can't it be a reparation state? And I'm not talking about reparations on a local level in that the city of Chicago should pay reparations or the state of Illinois. That's not what I'm talking about. I categorically disagree with that. Reparations is a federal project, and the federal government should pay the bill. And they can. And we just saw that during the stimulus distribution, and we're still seeing it. They came up with dang near half of what we're demanding in reparations in like a couple of weeks. You know, on a federal level, there aren't restrictions as it relates to budgets and things like that. They write it in on a budget sheet, and boom, there's the money. Voila, they print it, they make it. It's out of thin air. So they could do reparations. That's not, them not being able to do it is not the problem. But so these kids see Lori Lightfoot talking about that, but ignoring them. These kids see all these other, even the ones that are here legally. You know, you got a lot of Asian immigrants, oh, not a lot, but you have Asian immigrants here, you know, Chinese and Indonesian and other European ethnicities coming here and other Hispanic ethnicities coming here and living a world-class lifestyle in a city that they live in and live in squalor. They see that. They see that. And so when you, hold on, let me plug up my computer. Computer's dying. All right. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And so they see all these immigrants coming to live in a world-class city and being able to live a world-class lifestyle, yet they live in squalor. They live in poverty. These kids aren't dumb. And so when they're out there looting and rioting, you can say what you want to say about them. But they see what's going on. They see the politic Lori Lightfoot has. And it's a politic of benign neglect. Up until now, whenever she would mention black people, she would say black and Hispanic, or black and brown, or or crowbar in people of color, or women of color, or the LGBT, or the midgets and humpbacks, and whoever else you could get to dilute what should be coming to those whose ancestors built this place. Our ancestors built it. And when I say our ancestors built it, I'm saying they didn't get paid to build it. They were forced to build it. And over the past 400 years, we've never been able to access the wealth that we generated, our ancestors generated, i.e. being forced to build this country. So these kids see that, and I'm not specifically talking about just Lori Lightfoot. This is the general kind of democratic posture today. It's to ignore those people. You can look in different parts of the country. Antonio Moore just did a video where he talked about how Louisville right now, Louisville, Kentucky, has a whole program trying to empower immigrants. While those people in Louisville are living in the same type of squalor we are. So let's look at the numbers in Chicago. And this is what Lori Lightfoot needs to rebuild. She needs to rebuild her politics, and she needs to rebuild the fact that white people are 30% of the city. Those people are 30% of the city. Yet white people get 70 to 80% of the contracts, and black people get 5 or 6% of the contracts. Rebuild that first. Rebuild the fact that white people are 30% of the city, black people are 30% of the city, yet we're 3% of the union. We're restricted from the union. Rebuild that first. Rebuild the fact that even when people try to do, and I'm not taking a position on this either way, but when people tried to do an alternative to the unions, when with the previous governor, Illinois killed that. Rebuild the fact that this city imports nurses from other countries. Asian nurses, Hispanic nurses, some black ethnic nurses, Nigerian, Ghanaian, etc., and some Caribbean. They import nurses from other countries. When right here in Chicago, we have plethoras of black young girls, and probably even some black young men that would love to be nurses. And Chicago could simply put some funding into high schools to train young kids in high school that want to be nurses. And when they get ready to graduate, they already are on that path. They could very easily do that. In fact, we have a plan called the Illinois ADOS Equity Plan that spells all this out. They have a copy of it. It's not a secret. So rebuild that. Rebuild the fact that we're 30% of the city, but only make up maybe 15% of the fire department and dwindling. Only make up a bit over 20% of the police department. Rebuild that first. Rebuild the fact that every time there's a school strike, our school, our teachers from our community are largely the most fired. Our schools are closed, and first they tell us the schools are overcrowded, so they got to close them. Then the next strike, they say they're underutilized, so they got to close some. And our teachers end up getting fired. These are black people who live in black communities who would patronize these black businesses she's trying to build. So if you don't rebuild these things, if you don't rebuild the fact that the median household income in Chicago for white people is $65,000 to $70,000, and for black it's $30,000, rebuilding the black businesses is going to be a waste of time. And even in some census tracts in the city of Chicago, some black census tracts, the median household income It's $10,000 and $15,000, and our households are larger. By the way, our households are larger than white households. So if you aren't going to rebuild those things, if you aren't going to rebuild your politic that perpetuates poverty in those communities in this city, then rebuilding black business is just going to be symbolism. Because with us having a projected zero net wealth by 2053, which is likely going to be fast forwarded with the COVID crisis and the riots, etc. With us being projected to have zero net worth soon, those black businesses won't have customers. And with Lori Lightfoot signaling for everybody to come live on top of black people and just refuse to do equity for us specifically, we need set-asides and considerations only for us, not for minorities, not for people of color, not for women of color, not for LGBT, not for midgets and humpbacks, for ADOS. But with the mayor refusing to adjust her politic to do that, and again having a politic that perpetuates poverty in the black community, rebuilding those black businesses, it's going to be a waste of time because they won't have customers. Those businesses will cease to exist in the next 5 to 10 years, and most definitely by the next generation. And so people see that. These kids see that. And see, and what Mayor Lightfoot and others who have her particular politic, what they're counting on is, as it relates to undocumented immigrants, people who are here illegally, what they're counting on is at some point their kids are going to be like, the undocumented immigrants can't vote for anybody. They can't vote. But their kids will be able to. And so they're counting on that. But these kids aren't dumb, the ones that are out here rioting and looting. They know that means that you're counting on replacing them and moving them out of the way. They know that. They know that. And how Mayor Lightfoot and others who have this position think they can look us in the face and tell us that's not what's happening. Well, you keep on playing, well, this is what you get. The south and west sides of Chicago are tore up right now. And so before Mayor Lightfoot rebuilds black businesses, rebuilds black businesses, she has to rebuild her political positioning. And she has to rebuild black people first. Black people need to be included in the prosperity of this city. And see, if you don't understand, what I want you to do is go get a book called The Color of Money by Marsha Baradawin. And she chronicles how she makes the case for how when politicians talk about helping black businesses, it's really just a con game. It's really just a con game. I need you to go get that book and check out that book. This is what Nixon did. When it was a similar situation, black people were rioting in the streets, black people were upset, black people wanted a seat at the table. They wanted to get in the game, and they were demanding it. And what Nixon did, instead of actually fixing the problem, in fact, Mitt Romney's father, George Romney, I believe, which was a Republican, he was actually working towards policy that would fix black communities. He said that suburbs are a noose around the neck of the ghetto. He was trying to fix it. And what Nixon did was said, no, we ain't gonna really fix it. What we'll do is we'll help black businesses. All right? That was the trick. That's the benign neglect. Like you can't get mad if somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to help black businesses." You really can't get mad. I mean, unless you know the game. But if you don't know the game, and somebody says, I'm gonna help black businesses," you gonna say, that makes, I'm with that. But you got to know the game. Your businesses need customers. Okay? And our customers in the city of Chicago, our customer base, again, have a median net worth or median household income of $30,000, and in some cases $10,000 to $15,000 per house, when the median household income for Chicago is $70,000 to $75,000. You can't survive. That's not sustainable. You can't survive like that. That community won't make it. Not in Chicago. Maybe it's some little po town you can stick them in, maybe Harvey or something, or I don't know. But you can't survive like that in a world-class city. You won't be able to make it. And so if Lori Lightfoot isn't willing to rebuild that first, again, rebuild the fact that we make up 30% of the city, yet only barely 15% of the fire department. Rebuild the fact that we barely make up a little over 20% of the police department. Rebuild the fact that with 30% of the city, yet we get 5 or 6% of the contracts. We only make up 3% of the unions. Our teachers are always the ones that are being fired and replaced by Hispanic and white teachers. Rebuild the fact that you're an advocate for a sanctuary city but not a reparation city. Rebuild the fact that you're inviting everybody over, signaling for everybody over to come live on top of those people, on top of black people, but you won't do anything specific for black people. So we will be able to compete and survive. We won't be able to survive. We won't be able to compete and survive in this city, in this country, let alone this city. We won't be able to make it. You can't make it under these circumstances. You don't have any money. You don't have any resources. Every group has something in this city. The Irish got the police department. I think the Italians got the fire department. The Chinese got Chinatown. And people say, well, y'all got Blacktown. Well, y'all got the South Side. Well, it's a little different because Chinese folk, they generally come from China with a little bit of money. These ain't poor people. So they can have a town that they can prosper in. We don't have that ability. We don't have what they have, which is money. So we don't have any money, and then we have the stigmata of being black. So we can't be compared to them. So rebuild that, Mayor Lightfoot, first before you rebuild black businesses. Rebuild your political position. Rebuild the fact that y'all just continue to just neglect black people. Neglect ADOS people particularly. And bring us into this prosperity of this city, or rebuilding those businesses. It's going to be a waste of time because they won't exist after a while anyway. And so that's my piece on the mayor. That's what I think she needs to rebuild. Again, the Illinois ADOS equity plan is not a secret. Everybody, they got copies of it. And so this is what needs to happen. In closing, I'm going to be doing a counter to the Kumbaya March this Sunday over at 8100 South Dante. I'm going to put a flyer up here shortly. We're going to put a flyer up, and we're going to do like a small little church service outside. It won't be like a whole lot of long preaching. Just a quick little message. And we're going to have Representative LaShawn Ford there talking about his demand for Governor J.B. Pritzker to sign an executive order and bring funds to the black community, emergency funds to the black community right now. And we're going to be talking about some other things and how we can start to build towards that. Because right now, they tried to put the fire out, the Kumbaya folk. They tried to kill the energy. But the city is still in shambles. And so we still got some leverage. And so we want to build on that leverage and work towards a demand. We want Governor J.B. Pritzker to declare a state of emergency in the black community, sign an executive order bringing emergency funds to the black community immediately. Start to legislate us into the prosperity of the city and become a reparations advocate for those people. Because I'm about to close in a second, but I want to say this. If we get the emergency funds, which would be great, it would be fantastic. If we get that, and we're able to do a modicum of rebuilding, and we rebuild the community, which is cool. But if the other things don't follow, things that will put money in the pockets of the people who live in the communities we're going to rebuild, it won't make a difference. It'll happen again. And the next, it might happen immediately after as we rebuild. Who knows? But there needs to be something. We need what Rep. Ford is talking about, and there needs to be a push to make sure that we start to change our economic condition. We need money. It's just the bottom line. It's not rocket science. We just saw the stimulus and they just giving away money, just giving it away. We need money. So when you rebuild, we need to be the ones rebuilding. And when we rebuild, we need money to shop in these stores. I mean, it's 1 + 1 = 2. It's a real simple equation. We need money to shop in these stores. So we don't have to deal with looting and rioting. And that's why these kids are doing that. Because they see everybody living good but them. So, again, this Sunday, look out for the flyer to be out soon. Come join us. We're going to make, Rep. LaShawn Ford will be there. We're going to make some demands. And we're going to build on those demands. Sign an executive order, bringing some emergency funds to the city of Chicago, to the black communities, rather. And we have to lean on making sure we want J.B. Pritzker to become an advocate for reparations for American descendants of slavery. He's an advocate for, again, sanctuary cities in the sanctuary state. So he has to become an advocate for our community, period, in terms of reparations. And so that's my piece. Hope you enjoyed it. Share the live, share the message, and look out for again the flyer that's going to come up. That'll be out a little bit later today for this Sunday. We want to get as many people out there this Sunday. We're going to be making these demands. We need people with us. We need people behind us because again, the kumbayas, they out here and they doing what they do, and so we have to be able to counter that. So get ready for this Sunday. We're gonna be out there. We're gonna be out there in large numbers, and we're gonna make some demands. Okay. So that's my piece. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you maybe tomorrow. Peace.